ever take away from a win, ever. We will never, because that's a win. It's hard to win in this league. We all know. Nobody knows better than we do.
How do you hope this team takes this?
Just like we have the last three, and go back and get another one next week.
This has been one of the biggest surprises in this NFL season, a very welcome one, and I couldn't get on my flight to Turkey and Dubai and Israel without making one last video in my studio on the Detroit Lions. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to try to make videos while I'm on my trip as well, because, well, I'm me. But if you guys want to stay in tune with what I'm doing, make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'll be posting about my travels frequently there over the next 3 weeks. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! This video is sponsored by PrizePicks. You guys know PrizePicks has been my latest obsession because I live in California. There's no way that you could gamble on games in California, so the best way you could get action on games is through PrizePicks. And ever since I partnered with them, we've been having a lot of fun. And before we get to the latest promo, I want to give a huge shout out to my man, Nasri Hasbun, who tweeted me a 6-legged pick that he hit on as a result of our last promo, which means he 25x'd his money. And that's freaking awesome. Hopefully more of my subs hit this big as a result of today's promo. As a matter of fact, it's not only today's promo, because from this day and on until Christmas Day, PrizePicks is releasing a brand new promo every day, and it's called Picksmas. All you have to do is download PrizePicks, use my promo code Mikerophone to get up to a $100 deposit match, and then just log into PrizePicks each and every day to see what they're offering for that day. Since they're offering a brand new promo each and every day, I'm probably going to be posting my picks onto my Instagram story. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I literally play PrizePicks each and every day. So huge shout out to PrizePicks for the sponsorship. Make sure you sign up with my promo code Mikerophone or the link in the description down below. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I've been getting this question a lot on Twitter. What is going on with the Detroit Lions and why are they so successful? Well, this is what their players have to say about it.
It's us.
Yes, sir.
I didn't do anything. We did that together, man.
Yes, sir.
We did that. It's us. We fight. Got to the last, literally the last second. But let that just fester in there. That's us. That's us. I told y'all, we some dogs.
This is what their quarterback has to say.
When you can win, making the mistakes we make, making the mistakes I made, guys picking us up and being able to come up with a win against a good team on the road says a lot about who we are and where we're at right now.
And this is what the rest of the team has to say about their recent success.
The guys, they believe. They believe, and now here we go. This is another win, but it was a different way to have to win. We had to find a different way to win, another way to win. And every time that happens, you just continue to grow and you start figuring things out and your confidence grows.
The Detroit Lions have been on a tear recently. I mean, entering November, the Detroit Lions had a 1.4% chance of making it into the NFL playoffs. That number has since ballooned to 39% in the middle of December, which is the perfect time to get hot, by the way. Of course, the Lions were 1-6 in November, and currently, ever since then, they have won 6 out of their last 7 games. And some pretty good opponents, too. I mean, you're talking about a team that was able to defeat the Minnesota Vikings, and there's multiple reasons as to why they have been successful. I want to take this all the way back to the very first decision they decided to make that would ultimately alter the course of their franchise, and that is the famous Matthew Stafford trade. We found out about it during the week of the Super Bowl. On January 30th, 2021, Adam Schefter said that Detroit is dealing quarterback Matthew Stafford to the LA Rams in exchange for 2 future first-round picks, a third-round pick, and quarterback Jared Goff. 2 former #1 overall picks trading places in the first blockbuster NFL trade of 2021. This moment was very special to me because I was able to predict the trade like 4 or 5 hours before it happened. No, seriously, no, like I have a library of videos. Type in Matthew Stafford trade Mikerophone. You'll see I predicted this trade a few hours before it happened, but my own hubris aside, the beauty of this trade was not only the fact that the Detroit Lions decided to sell on the peak of Matthew Stafford's value while he was potentially past his prime, which, bear in mind, a past his prime Matthew Stafford, or quote-unquote past his prime Matthew Stafford, was good enough to win a Super Bowl for the LA Rams. I wanted to make it abundantly clear, whenever you make a trade that wins you a Super Bowl, you automatically win that trade. You can't lose a trade that results in winning a Super Bowl, even though the future for the LA Rams doesn't look as bright as it did a year and a half ago. But in this case, man, the Lions pulled off a haul that I'm shocked more people don't discuss. The Rams gave up 2 future first-round picks in 2022 and in 2023, a third-round pick in 2021, and a former #1 overall pick in Jared Goff. Sean McVay reportedly felt like Jared Goff just wasn't getting it done in his system. He felt very limited by Jared Goff's abilities, which I could understand depending on the scheme he wants to run, but you have to also understand the narrative surrounding Jared Goff at this point. During his rookie season with Jeff Fisher, he looked horrible out there. He only completed 55% of his passes. For the most part, Sean McVay was credited for Jared Goff's success, and rightfully so. Sean McVay is one of the most brilliant head coaches we've seen in quite some time. But if you remember, man, the narrative surrounding Jared Goff during his first season with the Detroit Lions, you were seeing headlines constantly about Jared Goff still hasn't won a game without Sean McVay. Ultimately, he was able to get that victory, and in year 1, you started to see that, hey, maybe this QB could be a successful quarterback in the NFL. At the very minimum, be an above average quarterback in the NFL. A QB that could complete 67% of his completions, throw for over 3,000 yards, and limit his turnovers to single digits while throwing 19 touchdowns in his first season, despite not having the greatest wide receiver core except for an emerging young talent that the Lions took in the 4th round, is something that is worth exploring even further. And so the Detroit Lions did. I think a huge part of their success is boosting the confidence of Jared Goff, as they should, by the way. Jared Goff's contract is one of the better contracts in the NFL. Whenever you have a QB that is making $33.5 million on average, that's not even a top 10 contract for a quarterback currently. And at the very minimum, when Jared Goff was traded to the Lions, I said, at the very worst, he's just a bridge quarterback as they figure everything out. Now, the Lions have consistently denied Jared Goff being a bridge quarterback after this season. It's very easy to see why. So far, Jared Goff has thrown 23 touchdowns, completed 65% of his completions, thrown for over 3,600 yards, and hasn't thrown an interception since the beginning of November. I mean, you have to admit, the Detroit Lions have been making very intelligent decisions ever since the beginning of the Dan Campbell era, selecting Penei Sewell in the 2021 NFL Draft, a player that some people were considering as the top overall prospect in the NFL Draft, or at least the #2 prospect in the NFL Draft, depending on if you value Trevor Lawrence or Penei Sewell more. Personally, I rank Trevor Lawrence higher, but some people thought Penei Sewell was significantly better as an overall player. So far, Penei Sewell has been phenomenal for the Detroit Lions, and in that same draft, they were able to hit in the 4th round on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, to complement those players, this past year, they were able to select Aiden Hutchinson with the 2nd overall pick, a player that came from the University of Michigan, which created a really nice story of the hometown hero playing for Detroit, who's really trying to build something special there. And then they were able to select Jameson Williams with their additional 1st round pick. But this draft class is something special, man. I mean, I want you guys to be very aware of how good they were in the draft recently. Kirby Joseph in the 3rd round already has 3 interceptions. Malcolm Rodriguez, you heard of Rodrigo a bunch of times on HBO Hard Knocks, has been very solid specifically for a 6th round pick. What about their other 6th round pick, James Houston? Well, he's no scrub either. He already has 5 sacks in the NFL this season. Him and Aiden Hutchinson are both leading all rookies in sacks this year. This Detroit Lions team is the perfect combination of a head coaching staff that trusts its players, that empowers its players, that also used to be players, and that's something else you saw on Hard Knocks consistently. Dan Campbell used to be a tight end for the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. Deuce Staley used to be a running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. I remember. And I think the most beautiful part about this situation is that the Detroit Lions, even though they might not make the playoffs this year, which, by the way, if they continue and let's say they're able to win out the rest of the season, which is a pretty big feat, by the way, I have a lot of faith that the Detroit Lions will be able to make it to to the playoffs. But in addition to this, if you just look at what the Detroit Lions have to play with, this team has $30 million in cap space for this upcoming offseason. They already have their quarterback under contract for another couple of years. They probably aren't going to be looking at a quarterback at the top of the draft because you don't necessarily look at the Lions and think that quarterback play is the thing that's holding them back from being truly successful. Currently, the Detroit Lions have the number 4 overall pick. That puts them in a situation where they could either draft another quarterback, which in my opinion would be a waste of a pick in this situation. Nothing against CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, but I feel like selecting a quarterback at this point would just set this team back. You already have Jared Goff. He's already been above average at the very minimum. There's no reason to try to develop your next QB already. This puts them in a situation to further improve an already solid defense. Whether it's via Jalen Carter of Georgia or Will Anderson of Alabama or even Miles Murphy from Clemson, there's a lot of directions that the Lions could go here. Currently, they also are projected to have the 15th or 16th pick in the NFL draft this year, which puts them in a great situation to further improve their defensive back unit. Jeff Okudah hasn't been playing like a number 3 overall pick, but he's also coming off of an Achilles tear from a year ago, and prior to him suffering a torn Achilles, I didn't really have so much faith in his coaching staff to get the best out of him. Regardless, even as you're trying to explore whether or not Jeff Okudah will be the future for you guys, this puts you in a great situation to potentially draft Joey Porter Jr. I personally thought it was really interesting that in their last game, a few weeks after I roasted them for trading a former first-round pick of theirs, TJ Hawkinson, to a division rival, they were able to set up the game-winning play by throwing a 51-yard touchdown to Brock Wright, who was the tight end behind TJ Hawkinson. Wright had 10.7 yards of separation from the nearest defender when the pass arrived, and he was expected to gain 31 yards after the catch, which was the second most on any reception this season. So in addition to having really good players, a coach that's motivating the hell out of you,
Doesn't matter if you have one cheek and 3 toes, I will beat your
also appears as though the Detroit Lions have a phenomenal play design. When you put all of those pieces together and have a quarterback that is consistently pinpoint accurate with the ball and does a good job taking care of the ball, at the very worst case scenario, Jared Goff is a high-end game manager. I think he's proven to us that he could potentially win you games. Let me know in the comment section down below. Why are the Detroit Lions so successful? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.